the last time you were on, I didn't tell you the story, and I thought it'd be kind of funny to tell this story. So I lived with my grandfather for a few years, the Italian side, right? He's a judge. He was an ex-judge. Rest in peace. In the room that I was staying in, he had all these frames of like these real expensive pictures, right? Like paintings and everything like that. Man, this is 97, 98. I have this many Source magazines, okay? I'm living in the country. And I got, it looks like No Limit Records in my room. I had pictures everywhere, all around, right? So and I used to take his pictures out and put the pictures in the frames, right? And one of those pictures was My Balls and My Word. Your album cover was in a frame. Now listen, so my grandfather, Italian, right? Comes up to the room. He's looking around the room. He looks at he looks at the picture. He goes, my balls in my word.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, the fuck's that? That's young bleed, Grandpa. Come on, man.
Right there, man.
He wasn't sure, man. He wasn't sure. I was like, I hope my grandson's gonna be okay. Welcome back, everybody, to the El Hoopo Show. And this is episode 3, and we got a real legend coming up here. And I just want to let you know, this is a little pre-warning that this show isn't about, basketball. This show isn't about this. This show isn't about that. What this show is about is being able to try to control stress and anxiety one conversation at a time. Like I said before, I'm going to bring on plumbers. I'm going to bring on entertainers. I'm going to bring on everybody. Listen up, everybody. I have a legend on the podcast tonight. How can I put this? Growing up as a teenager, I was listening to this, I was listening to that, and there was certain music that just stuck to me. And I said it in the other podcast that we did, that I put this guy in the bucket for flow. Like, we got Snoop, we got Slick Rick, we got Young Bleed, man. And this guy right here in the 90s, like he just and he just keeps going. When most people have stopped and pushed the brakes or just gone away and disappeared, this guy had been from the 90s until 2025 and still going. This song that you just put out, Corleone, this shit that you just put out, it reminds me like I'm listening to My Balls and My Word. You even have the little sample at the end, man.
Right. Well, I love off. Yeah, man.
I just want to thank you for coming on, everybody. This is Young Bleed, former No Limits Order, C-Loc Records. Big salute to you, and thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for coming on. I
appreciate you having me, man. Like always, to be continued, my brother. Absolutely.
Yes, all right. So, like I said, the point of this show is trying to find ways to control stress and anxiety, man. I thought I'd ask, an entertainer, somebody who's been in the game for a long time, like a real OG in this, and you've seen some things, I'm sure. I'm certain you've heard some things, and you've had some things affect you. And, I've come up with this thing of it's almost like it's 3 stages of stress. There's your childhood, things happen in your childhood, right? And then that sort of is like the seed that grows. And then in your 20s, you're on the come up, and things that happen in your 20s that stress you out, and you deal with that. And then now, what things stress you out and how you deal with that. I wanted to know if you could jog your memory and maybe for the listeners be able to like go back to your childhood. Was there anything that happened that you remember to this day that sort of molded you and a stressful situation, how you dealt with that as a child, man? And then on the come up in your 20s, maybe when you were on tour or when you were recording and doing your thing, like what and how did you deal with those things, man?
When you're young and your adolescence, man, we don't know really what stress is. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So you don't know it like that. A kid run wild like you could run forever. And but I could recall this. Maybe my first death encounter was the death of my grandfather. And I didn't know how to cope with that and deal with that. I loved him, man. And one day he was here, the next day he was gone. I remember being in the Veterans Hospital in New Orleans, being about 10 years old. And at the time, I don't know about now, the kids couldn't come upstairs. So on his last day, my mother was able to go up with my grandmother and see him as he passed away, talk to him as he passed. So I remember being in the funeral home, and I kept looking at that. We on the front row, of course. So I'm looking at the side door, where everybody that worked at the funeral home come out of. And in my head, I was so angry to where I was hoping that a nurse or a doctor or something came out of it, and I literally wanted to kill him or do something about that. You know what I mean? So that level of the non-foreverness, if I could say it like this, and just really coping with that. It's one thing I didn't see him in the hospital, but here he is laid
Man.
out in front of me at 10 years old, and that was something I didn't know how to really kind of cope with. So, amongst other things, I
You know
remember
what's
being
crazy
shot.
before you continue? You know what's crazy
Yeah,
before you continue? Is that
yeah,
exact situation happened to me with my Dutch grandfather, man, when he passed.
mhm,
Right before he passed, I didn't get to see him in the hospital, man, and I was so close to him. And the next
yeah,
thing you know, I'm
yeah,
seeing he's laid out in front of me, man. And it was, I can relate to you 100% with that. It was very hard to deal with that, and to this day, I still miss that guy, and I wish I would have, gone to the hospital with him. And
yeah.
anyways, yeah, man, that hit me right there. Yeah. So sorry,
Same
sorry for
way,
cutting you
man.
off.
I still, he lived with me in spirit. I learned that in life young. But, I wake up and sometimes I have dreams like he's still here. And I wake up and, oh, man, it's just a dream. But I remember being shot at about 7 or 8 years old, running with the big homies. And that
God
incident
damn.
took place behind school, playing Little League football and different things like that. And one of my big homies, rest in peace, stole a kid fishing rod. We had a situation where behind the school, they'll lock the gate with the dumpster side on the left side or coming from behind the school, University Terrace Elementary. One
Mm,
side was like an open field. And they had a rumor that our elementary school had a silent alarm in it. So it was only three ways, really,
mm-hmm.
four ways to go home. Now that I look at it, we lived like right off the campus of LSU. LSU was in my backyard, literally.
Was it?
So yeah. So we could hop the canal, go across this canal that'll put you right in the LSU field and right where the marching band rehearsed every day, that type of thing. So we didn't think to go home that way. And our reason being was to the right of coming from behind the school, it was a little small building, was a deaf school for deaf kids.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a new family in the neighborhood. And we found out that the guy daddy worked at that deaf school and they'll be there after school. You see what I'm saying? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, nope, we can't go that way. You know what I mean? His daddy gonna catch us that way. We can't hop the fence where the dumpster is because it's a barbed wire fence. You know what I mean?
Oh boy.
So our other alternative, we didn't think, like I say, LSU and jump in the canal. We decided to jump over the school and take the chance of the silent alarm going off.
Uh oh.
We get in front of the school and start making our way through our homes in the neighborhood. And out of all the places that we could cut through, it had like this big field on Garfield Street that had like this big brick apartment building, a real solid, small kind of building that looked like a castle. We used to call it the castle on the hill. So in
Mm.
that field, a lot of guys played football. The Dixie Cup ladies stayed there and everything once you get to Grant Street. So we decided to cut through that field. All the places, instead of going left to one block, Alaska Arm Street, right to Highland Road, we cut through that alley. And as soon as we get, from the grass to Grant Street,
Mm.
some boys in the hood shit, you hear
Oh
the little
boy.
kids say, Daddy, there they go right there. So we look back, and that's the kid. You know what I mean? That my guy stole his fishing rod from. He
Oh
was a young kid in
no.
the neighborhood, and my older homies muscled him. You know what I mean? One in particular. So he said,
Mm.
there they go right there. He was just explaining that, I guess, to his dad, and we just happened to pop up. His daddy pulled out, I believe, a snub nose, nickel plated 38
And you're
and started
seven, eight
firing
years
that.
old. You're 7, 8 years old at the time.
I'm that
Oh
old, but my
my
guy's
god.
about 10, 11 ish, that type of
Still,
thing.
man.
You know what
God
I
damn.
mean?
My daughter's 8.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
right. So those type of things and experiences in the neighborhood. So I
Mm.
remember, shout out to my man, Dog Will Tiller, was originally from Gary, Indiana. He was one of my first friends from Gary long before I knew I toured the states and, end up in Gary, Indiana. Home of
Mm.
Michael Jackson, the Jackson family. So
Yep.
Will Tillett, we lived. My grandparents had a few grandparents that lived on the street called McKinley Street. So we
Mm.
crossing Grant Street, going back toward the Highland Road, passing the corner stores to make it on home. And before we do that, once the gunshots start going off, the neighborhood just say Dog Will Tillett was the fastest guy, and he was older than me on McKinley Street.
Mm.
But after school, we'll wake up in the morning. It's cold in the morning time. You have a long sleeve shirt on. By the time the recess and later on in the day, we'll take that long sleeve shirt off and wrap the
Yep.
sleeves around the waist. You know what I mean? That type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So all my homies, big homies, say, man, That day, you became the fastest dude on McKinley Street. All we saw was that the back of your shirt flagging in the air. So, yeah, I hauled that all the way home. Ran to my grandfather. He still was alive and explained that this grown
Yeah.
ass man was shooting at us. So, not
That's
thinking stressing again.
crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy, by the way.
yeah. Those type of fears, you know what I mean? Just, like I say, boys in the hood soft. So I grew with those type of big homies.
And
So
how
we
did
all
that
been dealing with this shit.
how did that so dealing with that, so say that just happened, you get
Yeah,
home, how you
yeah.
feeling at that point? You know what I mean? Like, can you remember what that did to you as a child?
Okay, like I say, not knowing stress.
Yeah.
Not thinking at all. My heart is 1,000 miles per hour. So I ran immediately to the porch of my grandfather and I sat down and talked to him till I calmed down and caught my
Yeah.
breath, you know what I mean? And just, just briefing on the adolescence, but answering your question and fast forwarding the tape,
Mm.
later in life, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Um, I always got headaches real young as a kid, kind of like migraines, and we lived in shotgun houses and didn't have
I'm dealing with those right now.
yeah, you know what I mean? So I didn't understand that. Half of the days was hot. We had the box fan, you know what I mean? You put in the window or put in front of the door to get the air from the outside. But a
Mm.
lot of times I remember napping because I had those type of headaches, trying to sleep it off, sweating hot at the same
Yeah.
time. So later, again, fast forward in the tape, when I get to my 20s and
Hmm.
started to tour a lot, I remember going to the doctor and was diagnosed with high blood pressure. So you hear about those type of things as a kid, but that level of stress. So nowadays, you know what I mean? I take a blood pressure pill in the morning, and most importantly, you learn to pray, relax, and meditate, man. You know what I mean? Or just lay out and let your body lay flat till it catch up with itself. So I had to learn
Yeah.
and understand what stress was along the way, man. Yeah.
Yeah. See how crazy the mind and the body and the soul, the connection of that is that you're dealing with
Yes.
that, like you nailed it, man. You said you don't know what stress is as a kid. You don't. I
Nah.
remember that as a kid too. I didn't know what stress was as a kid. I see my dad, he was an alcoholic. I could see that he was
Yeah.
stressed and he was drinking
Yeah.
to deal with that stress, but I didn't know what
Yeah.
that stress was. And
Yeah.
all I could see it visually, but I didn't know what it
Yeah.
was. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know
Right.
what it did. And it's funny because you didn't know what it felt like. You didn't, but your body inside knew, because by the time you hit 20 in the high blood pressure, like, what high blood pressure? Fuck, I
Yeah.
got
What
high
is
blood
that?
pressure. Yeah, what is that
Yeah.
for one thing, doc? And secondly,
Right.
how did I get this? And no wonder you're getting shot at, outside of schools by grown ass men. Like, that's crazy.
Crazy. Crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, you hit it on the dime there. So then, you said, as you're in your 20s, you tour, you're dealing with that, and you're like, I got this high blood pressure. What's going on there? Now it's
Yeah.
changed. So how did you deal with that then to then now, 2025, Young Bleed now, where you've gone through and you've seen and you've lived, and these situations you've been in. How do you deal with stress differently now that you know what stress is? You know what high blood pressure is. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't encourage anybody to do this, but as you see, I'm smoking a cigarette. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
shouts out to the world of cannabis, man.
Oh yeah.
Marijuana. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Occasional drink, wine. I drink a lot of wine, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And it's just like I say, what I try to do is not become irate. I hate to be angered and all that
Yeah.
type of thing. I still have those headaches. You know what I mean? When if I'm overstressed. So I try to keep myself, most importantly, calm all the time. Stay at a cool, medium temperature. And when you feel yourself, I work a lot in the studio, the road, you know what I mean? The road can stress you out. And the
Yeah.
vibration of a car sitting,
Yeah.
confined and bent up and your blood not traveling and reaching where you need to. So it's different things that bring, a lot of things that bring it on. So I learned how to stretch out, occasional exercise. I walk to the
Mm-hmm.
store sometimes just to, get some fresh air, that type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So it's a whole lot of different ways to deal with it, but mainly whatever it takes to keep your mind, body, and soul calm.
Yes,
You know what
sir.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
I'm
Yes,
still
sir.
dealing with those
Relax.
headaches to this day, man, with these kids. I got an 8-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old boy. And the boy's like a rhinoceros. He's just like I said in the previous part, he's like a rhinoceros giving birth to other rhinoceroses and just running through walls, man. This guy he's like a little Danny DeVito, a little Joe Pesci, just wild.
Yeah.
Just his name is Stello too, Stello Stortini. Like he already is a grown man, but he's only 2. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But man, I've never had
Right.
these headaches before. Like you just said that you went to the doctor about them. I just went to the doctor last week, and I actually then
Yes.
went again 2 days ago, and she's like, "Man, you're okay." She's like, "You're
Yeah.
okay." You did a whole exam. These are migraines, but the cool thing is, she's like, "Okay, but I understand with you that you're gonna need clarity that it's not something crazy. It's not cancer. It's not brain tumors. It's none of this, right?" So she's like, "I'll send you to this. You get an MRI, and it's going to be cleared up." But it's like what you just said right there, to be able to find ways to deal with it. Like you said, I can feel it coming on when I'm in that car and the car gets shaken and this and that. I have those moments too where I'm like with the kids and life in general. I'm busy. I'm working. I work in advertising. I just got to step away. Like I run, I
Right.
go to the gym, I do that. But sometimes you just got to stop. You
Yeah,
know
you
what I
have to
mean?
stop. Lay flat.
Yeah.
Nothing is better than rest, man. Rest is real important in anything you do in life. I done lost a lot of homies, young homies that died before time and as recent as now from heart attacks and strokes and stuff like that. And just doing too much in life is, what I learned, Hope is our body is just as well as a thermometer. You look at the thermometer and it reach a
Yeah.
peak, you know what I mean, and pressurize, you know what I mean. You will literally blow your top, or bust the top. So
Yeah.
see now I'm sipping me a little ice water, you know what I mean. I was drinking
Yeah.
a little bit earlier, so I reach a certain level, and I know I have to water myself down, calm down. That ice keeps me cool. So the main
Balance.
thing is just remain cool and calm best you can. Yeah, and sharing
Cool
this
and
with you,
calm,
man. I
man.
have 5 kids in life. Yeah, 4 is grown, and I have 6 grandkids. So I'm
God
dealing with
damn.
that too. I got a grandson. I call him Wild Boy because he's like me times 10. They mine, and the different things. I say all the kids, the millennium babies, they born with an extra microchip, man. So you have to be
This is
educated
funny.
to answer the questions that they're gonna ask you when you want to sit back and kick back. Hey, Papa, hey, whoop 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 whoop, and they going 1,000 miles per hour. So just as well
Yeah.
as any father, a family, a coach to a team, a manager to a job. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine the president. You're responsible for the lives of a whole lot of people. And just
Sure.
because you reach a level of calm don't mean they calm at the time. A person
Yeah.
like myself and yourself, imagine that.
Yeah.
Interviews, people got a million questions. I try to blend into society. You know what I mean? It's coming to America for me. I could be in the bathroom taking a piss in public. And if somebody recognize who I am and they that
How you do
diehard of a
that
fan,
there? I'm like, God damn, I'm trying to take a
hey
piss,
man,
man.
let me finish. Pissing.
Yeah.
I remember being on a tour with Strange and shouts out to Cotton Eye Joe. You know what I mean? Was my guy.
Mm,
Was the marketing guy, and I roll with him mainly. So I'm dealing with
mm.
all the business, meeting people, and I have to be standing up for 2 hours. Like, man, I gotta sit down. You know what I mean? Your body. You strain your body. You don't have to do nothing, but not get the proper rest. But I remember an incident, and several times we go into a place like a Taco Bell, and it was
Yeah.
real odd for me, because Tech Nine lane was a little different than the average rapper
Shout out
lane,
Tech Nine.
white or
Yeah.
black.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's a lot of Mayberry towns, but that's just he doing 1,000 people a night, easily diehard fans, but it's predominantly white fans.
Yeah, he's got
So me
intense
being on
fans,
that
man.
type of tour, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Oregon somewhere, Montana somewhere, and I'm the only
Oof.
black guy that's around. So I remember being in a Taco Bell, and the people were so diehard Strange music. Anybody that came off of Strange music, they showed you that same artist credibility. So I remember
Yeah.
trying to eat in a Taco Bell, and the guy had to say, "Look, can y'all?" He used to go to the stores before me, with
Mm.
restaurants would have and ask to clear the place out just so I can go eat. You see what I'm saying? Because it'll never stop, and it's like 10 or 100 hearts to one, and you trying to cater to all the people. We talk
I was
mob a
going,
lot.
man.
Look, and you'll know this history, being Italians, half
Mm.
slash.
Mm.
Carlo Gambino is one of my favorite mob bosses, as well as Carlos
Yes, yes.
Marcello's and all the in between. So I
Yes,
know
yes.
this fact that they're saying the documentaries with Carlo Gambino. So he used
Mm.
to drink 12 cups of coffee a day and not get a job. and remain calm. The night and dawn, one of the calmest, coolest dawns. You know what I mean? In my history, but say he would hold court if what is the Ferrero's bakery on Sundays and sit and just talk to everybody in the community was his day that he had time to sit down and kind of answer everybody questions and sort out things. So I
The
live
real
a lot
politicians.
like
Those
that.
are real politicians right there. That's
Yeah,
the real
real
politicians.
politicians, man.
That's it.
Family and neighborhood, unity in the community. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So that type of thing, man, wearing so many hats,
Yeah.
having love for the people. You try to be there for everybody the best way you can. So he was a guy like that. If he could help you, he'll help you. He'll stop. He wasn't too uppity and bougie to where, I'm this guy. And, so
Yeah.
if you didn't know him, you think he was just a grandfather kind of dude because he didn't go around bragging and boasting and, caravanning and stuff like that. So
Trying to be
I
that
try to
guy
live.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, mannerism. So that aspect of life, where becoming famous, it's like Tupac was saying in one of his interviews one time, say, hey man, I remember being at raunchy house parties and standing in the corner wishing the girl would take me home. One day, next year you go to that same party and now you done did juice. You done made two apocalypse now. And now it's like, how am I doing you so much? And it's like, are you the same girl I saw last year?
Yeah.
That wouldn't
Yeah.
give me the time of day. So people find you in so many ways. So you're dealing with so many
Wait,
spirits.
how you when like for you, for instance, like, was it hard to stay on all the time, like when you blew up, right? When you on No Limit was that 97, 98, when My Balls came out, My Balls My Word came out, and like everybody. And for those that don't know how you do that, the original is called A Fool of Concentration Camp with CeeLo. That's the original. Go look it up. It's on Spotify. That's the real one right there. But when you blew up, was it hard to stay on? Like you said, you're in the Taco Bell, this and that. Like,
Yes.
was it just hard? Like, yeah, like tell, like that's stress right there, because having to feel like you have to be on all the time, it's got to wear on
Yeah.
you, man. Like Jordan said, like when he would go in his hotel on The Last Dance, he's like, I just want to be in my hotel with my cigars, and just and just be away from everybody. Like, what was that like for you?
What's the word I'm looking for? Knowing on one behalf, but getting used to it from a physical aspect. So you can have an idea what you want a picture to look like, but how it's really going to display itself, you have no idea. You see what I'm saying? So like I said, a rapid pace. So imagine you waking up and going to work at 6 in the morning, and like you say with Jordan, you done work, did the training camp and all that, and all you want to do is just go catch a bed, sit down and relax. And then it hits you at your weakest point, and when you don't have the strength to answer a question or even talk. And I'm a self secluded kind of guy, real
Me too,
private.
man. Me too.
So having to open up that oyster shell to the world. Once you become public domain, you owe that tidbit to the public to sign an autograph, take a picture, and do that type of thing. You know what I mean? And you get your occasional asshole, people that feel like just because of social media, they have a right to disrespect you or say something. Guys, people you never met in life. So dealing with that and anger, young, I was a certain way. I reacted to certain things, just in an effort of defending myself, standing for what I believed in, what I came from. So that part, and before you know it, I had to wonder where my high blood pressure came from. And it's dealing with inner beefs, with the record companies and starting with our own clickalation, into No Limit and everything else. You're dealing with different people that have different aspects of life and emotion. And sometimes things work together as well as people, and sometimes it don't. So just trying to break in, you know what I mean? Even doing music, even by myself, you know what I mean? It's to a point, it's a magnetism for me. If the beat don't call me, I used to mix records turn backwards. If it don't hit me like I'm riding the car and it's the speakers in the trunk, then I'm not attracted to it. If it don't fit you. So, so many aspects of when you say stress, you have to learn how to swim and ride the wave, man, or it's a wipeout.
You talk about swimming and ride the wave and not knowing what stress is. When I was a kid, this is a quick story. I had to watch my mother go through this. So my mom and my dad, they divorced when I was, I can't remember now. I think I was 10, 11 years old, right? And we were in this house. And my grandfather, my Italian grandfather, he actually, he got this house for us, right? So this is for his son's ex. and his kids,
Yeah.
right? And her kids. So my mom and myself and my sister were in this house, and we're in the country, man. And like you were saying, how you were in the country, you were swinging. What were you saying in the last podcast? Swinging for vines, man. Like I was the same thing, swinging tree to tree, same shit. Like jumping in the water, swimming all the time, like outside all the time. But the thing was with this house, it got super cold here in Canada, Northern Ontario. Like I'm talking real cold, and we're on an island, and we're on the water. And this certain winter, and we heated the house with a fire stove, so we always had to pile the wood outside and everything like that. And our water froze this winter, so we had to go down in the wintertime to this water thing on the street to carry water back and forth to the house. I go with my mom, and I saw that stress on her, man. And I saw how you just said right there, how you just gotta put your head up, get your head up, and just deal with it, and go get that water, keep pushing, put the fire in the fireplace, keep us warm, get the water. And I saw this for until that water line got fixed. And I never told my mom that, but man, I remember that, and I love her for that. Just I saw the strength in her, man, and she just made sure we were good. We had water, and we were warm, you know. She rode that wave.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well, I don't want to just talk about stress. There's two parts to this podcast. There's stress and dealing with it, and there's also happiness and how to sustain happiness. And we'll go into that right now. That I know you. I can tell you're a very spiritual man. You're from the state of Louisiana, and which is as most people know, very very spiritual place. And down south, the church. And with me, and you said it at the start, how your grandfather has come to you in dreams. My grandfather came to me right before he passed. He came, said everything was going to be all right, held my hand, and then he passed away on the Sunday. This was the Friday night. And, that at that moment, I'm not a big church guy. He was a big church guy, Roman Catholic. He went to church every single Sunday, used to take me when I was a kid. And after that thing happened, I was like, there's something else going on. There's something else going on in this world, man. And I want to know, like, if you can touch on your spirituality, going, the church, that side of you that obviously helps you maintain, keep that balance, keep pushing, and stay happy and be able to smile, man. And if anything has ever happened to you with a story to share, when it comes to that.
I had a lot of praying grandmothers and great grandmothers, and they were strong women. Few men, my grandfather being one, my pops, my step pops, uncles, and all that held the fort down. But predominantly those praying old ladies, man. You see what I'm saying? That I watched my grandmother walk to church every Sunday. I went with her sometime. And she was the type of lady, rain, sleet, or snow, she was going to work at 4 or 5 in the morning. And she never had a car. You know what I mean? In life. So she would walk to the bus stop. If it was raining, she had an umbrella. If the sun was out, she had an umbrella. You see what I'm saying? To make sure she got to work. Some days they picked her up. But I seeing that type of thing. My mother, you know what I mean, after the separation from my father, was one of those struggling ladies, you know what I mean, in that sense, with 2 single boys before my step-pop would come along. And she ended up catching lupus young. You see what I'm saying? Cancer. Different things like that. My greatest inspiration, my mother has like iron rods in one of her shoulders and one of her ankles, but she the fastest in the family. She gonna get around and take care of everybody. So to see her wake up every day and whatever anybody needs, she gonna show up, and so on and so forth. But coming from out that origin gave me a greater push and a greater desire to grow fast and to want to help those old ladies out that fed and took care of us when we was kids. So yeah, that type of thing, my brother. And of course, the church and spirituality. We come up, and and this, I watch a lot of the most haunted places in America. If you know about the Myrtles Plantation, that's like 30 minutes down the street from Baton Rouge. The old slave plantation. Talk about the slave girl Chloe. You ever saw that on the top 10s? But we had ghost houses and ghosts in the family. So not only in my dreams when my grandfather visited me, and spirituality. I remember this one time, and it reminded me of the time of racing from the bullets. I missed him so much, and it's kind of like you call things to you in one sense of the word. So I remember feeling his presence real super strong. I did something bad as a kid. And I was in my room, and me and my brother had bunk beds. I had the top bunk. And I remember my heart doing 1,000 again. And I'm too scared to come out the room and go across the hall and alert my mom and my pops.
Hmm.
And it's like, prayer and praying for peace. You see what I'm saying? With God. God will answer your prayers. So it's like, don't let this happen. I'm sticking my head under the covers and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, everything just pieced out. So I explained this to my mother the next day, and she said, that was your grandfather coming back to visit you, but he wasn't coming to hurt you. But if you scared, he's not gonna scare you. So he stopped before that type of thing took place. I could tell you millions of stories,
Man.
especially being in this rural South, man, and ghost houses from my family foundation before I was born and continue now to this day. It's visionaries and people could see stuff that some of us could see beyond here. You know what I mean? I have a daughter
Man.
that's like, what's this movie with Russell Crowe? Beautiful Mind. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
If
I
you ever
remember that
saw that,
movie.
he been to college campus or wherever, he see ghosts around you that you can't
Yeah,
see. I grew with a spiritual family like that. So I walk a
man.
thin line when it comes to that, far as dealing with anything. This is a voodoo state, you know what I mean? Slave territory, Indian territory. So you could only imagine, yeah, what you may encounter, man, from the woods to the hood to Hollywood, man.
Man, that the Louisiana, New Orleans, ever since I was a kid, there was always something that was drawing me to that state, to that part of the world, man. And I'm out in the middle of nowhere up here, right? And it's
Yeah,
funny that the first place I ever traveled in the States was there, and I went with my lady, and the
yeah,
moment we landed, the moment I touched ground and my feet touched that city, we went to Baton Rouge, and then we went to into New Orleans, and we weren't just
yeah.
going into the French Quarter, like into the party areas. Like we went, we saw, and I could
Yes, sir.
just feel it, man. What you just said right there, I felt it. I could feel the music,
Yeah,
I could feel the vibe, and I also could feel the other stuff. I felt that like there's some pain, there's a lot going on
yeah.
down there, and
All
you
right.
can see it in the people, you can feel it in the people. It's just beautiful. And to anyone
Yeah.
out there who's listening, who's never been down to Louisiana, down in the States, man, you gotta go, because it's, if you love music, if you love people, it's just,
Yeah.
it's a different place. It's a different place. Yeah,
It's like,
man.
if you're walking into a swamp and you see that mist, but you
Yeah.
don't understand the world you're walking into. That's Louisiana for you. The politics, since Louisiana Purchase, and the Napoleon law that to a large degree we still under. So it's
Mm.
a different oppression that's here that depresses and press the people. So you have that type of vibe. It's a beautiful thing, and it's also a strong beautiful God thing in that sense of the word. To where to be here, you have to be blessed and to survive the conditions that's here.
Oh,
You
I
see
can
what I'm
only
saying? To have
imagine.
the
Oh
spirit,
yeah.
right? To see my grandmothers and, like I say, still force a smile. She was a maid all her life, you know what I mean? But the people she worked for was good people. And they loved and accepted us as family still to this day. Their
Yeah.
kids raised together, that type of thing. So you have that atmosphere with the racism and politics going on. So for black and white folks alike, we either love each other or we don't here. You see what I'm
I
saying?
bet, yeah, yeah, and you talk about things that you'll be able to force a smile, like, and that's the thing, like with Katrina, when Katrina hit down there, man, like
Yeah.
a lot of people that stayed, they didn't leave. You know what I
Right.
mean, right? And that, to me, that showed so much strength. I remember seeing that. I'm like, and I remember
Oh,
seeing news reports up here, like interviewing some people, some families, and they're like, "No, we're not leaving. We held out on
yeah.
that last storm. I forget the name of the one before, but we're staying for this one." And that showed a lot of
Right.
strength, man, and a lot of strong people down there. And I can't even, like, I can't imagine the stress that Katrina must have put
Hey,
down bloodlines, man. You know what
yes,
I
sir.
mean?
I couldn't understand the rebuilding of New Orleans because to me, in retrospect, it was like, oh man, that's a dead city forever. 80, 90% of it, because it's already, the voodoo capital of the states. You know what I mean? And now, actually Marie Laveau is buried there, Laveau. But so imagine all those deaths, all the people that died in the Superdome and on the streets, old ladies, people that was in infirmaries. people that was in penitentiaries, the animals that was in the zoo, where they was gonna go. You see what I'm saying? There
The
was a
way they
lot of
treated
death.
those people in Angola, I saw that. How they
Yeah,
put them out on that, and isn't that where sea murder is in Angola?
yeah,
Free
yeah.
sea
And I
murder,
can't
man.
go, man. Soon to go,
Man,
Louisiana. A lot of
uh,
people, they tell you ghost stories from Angola to the Paris prison, man. So that level of death and spirits just all over the place. So I was like, how can they bring this back without having the great city of sadness? And you go to New Orleans right now, it's one of my favorite places in the world.
that's
And
the
you would
crazy part.
disappear in New Orleans, not in that sense, but in the sense of, oh, you'll fall in love with it. Every time I go to New Orleans, I fall in love with it because it's so diverse. Every nationality of people in New Orleans. I remember walking on the street with a guy from Australia. Hey man, let me buy you drinks. Me, my pop, one of my homies, and my brother, and just he just one white guy just walked with that free of a spirit. That's the love that sparks from New Orleans, man. Still to this day.
Best
Yeah,
bottle of
crazy.
Jack Daniels I ever had was in New Orleans, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
One
the
of the drink
best
out
night of
in the States,
dancing with
man.
my lady. Best night of dancing
Yeah.
with my lady was in New Orleans. We hit a jazz place and then we hit a reggae spot. And I still
Yes,
remember
sir.
to this day, man, there was two pimps, like bona fide pimps. I'm talking like you remember the documentary American Pimp with like
American.
Rosebud, and you remember that
Yeah, yeah.
documentary?
Pimpin' Ken.
Come
Pimpin'
Pippin
Ken, I
Ken,
call my
man.
uncle. Yeah, absolutely,
Pippin Ken
man.
is the greatest of that dude. What did he say? He goes up from the state capital to the Big Apple. He's like- but
Yeah,
these guys were bona fide. I'm talking head to toe. One guy was in all red with his brim on, cocked to the side, right, and then the other guy was in. I think he was in green and gold, right, yeah. So
Don
they both
Juan.
came up, yeah, like Don Juan. So they came up to me. I thought this was so respect. They came up to me, right, and they're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Toronto, Canada." Like, "Is that your girl?" And yeah. He goes, "Man, she's bad." He goes, "Good for you, man." He like this, and then left us to
Respect.
go, man. I was like, it was just cool. I was like, well, thanks, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah, get
it
your
was
ping
real
pong.
cool. At this point in the podcast, man, I call this part Switch Worlds, and what we do here is we just take a little breather break, right? We put a little picture up like this, and we play a little
Yeah.
tune. This tune right here is just a little interlude beat made by my friend Slang Hugh, SLANGHUGH. If you don't know now, you know. Look him up. This is a little
Yeah.
breather break, man, to go into the final segment of this podcast. And man, I want, as this beat goes, I just want to thank you again, man, and
Hey.
for coming on here.
Yeah, likewise, my brother. I lived across the bridge, across what's that, the Detroit River or whatever that you can see on Canada, Toronto
Windsor,
from Detroit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Buffalo. Oh, you're talking Windsor and and Detroit, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, my cover, man, from Water Light, and I'm leaning across the little, what you call it, barricade that's right over that river. I'm looking at Toronto taking that picture, man.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yes,
shit.
sir. That's the Water Light cover.
Have you been to Toronto?
Nah, man, I never. This the thing about me. I done lived that close to Canada. I
Mhm.
lived in Dallas, and probably been as far as maybe I've been to Corpus Christi once. It was the lowest I've been. My
Yeah.
moms and pops used to go to Mexico every year, but I never crossed either border yet.
Man, you would love Toronto, man. You would Toronto
Yes,
would
sir.
love you, and you would love Toronto. I'm telling you that right now, because
Yeah,
I could just tell, man.
passport now, man. I'm trying to get those places. I ain't too fond of flying lately, but
No, man.
between Toronto, Canada, period, and Mexico, yeah, I'm looking at venturing. Some of my guys just send me some pictures. Panama City and Puerto Rico, they go to all the time, and they on
I
me
love
on my
Mexico,
heels
man.
about getting my passport. Yes, sir.
One day I'm gonna
Yes,
move down to
indeed.
Mexico, and I'm gonna be sipping with when they're gonna let Chapo go. Chapo's gonna end up back in Culiacan and Sinaloa, and they're gonna
Yes, sir.
send El Mayo back as well because he was kidnapped and he should have never been kidnapped. But we don't need to get
Yeah.
into it. So this is the part of the show.
Yeah.
This is the part of the show that I like to call the Hoopo verse. And every end of every podcast, I end it with suggestions for 3 things that help me with stress and anxiety. Music is huge.
Yeah,
I-
absolutely.
Yeah, number one for me. documentaries, man. I could just like zone out my brain and numb out and watch some documentaries. And I love challenges. I love to take a challenge and see it and then destroy it and win, right? So I always suggest one of each at the end of every episode and hopefully send somebody home with that, right? So today, because we have you on, man, I thought, man, I want to jam out some of your tunes for some tunes that maybe the list. And this one right here.
You going there, not cutting you off, but you got me in my area. It's been on my mind since the beginning of our interview. But I wanted to ask you this.
Yes.
And I forget that, we spoke of prayer and so on and so far, but KRS-One said it the best. I understand that music calms the savage beast, man. You see what I'm saying? So that's one of my pet peeves. But also the documentaries. I sleep with my TV on, but I'm into stuff like the Loch Ness Monster in your area, Ogo Pogo, Lake Champlain. I know all the great lakes that got great sea monsters. So I'm into sea monsters, Bigfoots, and UFOs. I got a few UFO pictures and things I done saw in life. I hadn't saw Bigfoot yet, and they supposed from Louisiana to anywhere around the world, as well as sea monsters. So I wanted to ask you about any of that up there, man. What you feel about the Ogo Pogo, Memphis, and all that type of stuff in your area, man?
Well, since fentanyl dropped on the streets, I've seen a lot of Bigfoots running around here, but
right, yeah,
a lot of these cluckers around here just with these swollen feet. But no. You know what? There's a lot of conspiracies up here about especially in our Great Lakes with the there's always been some the old folks talking about some sea monsters and all this stuff, like the spirits in the water from in the Great Lakes from the boats and the shipwrecks, and there's quite a bit of that. But man, UFOs up here, you'll see some shit like, because especially out in the country, since we're so north, like they're probably just satellites, but we used to lay out on the sand on the beach. I used to look up, man, and I used to see some shit that's not a satellite, man. That right there is not. You know what I mean? But I wanted to jam out with you, man, a couple of these tunes, because like you said, music cures so much. Like sleep can make you calm, sleep can make you be a great medicine. Music is just something, man. And I wanted to jam out some of your tunes that maybe some people haven't heard, that because a lot of the listeners that I have so far are just people that I grew up with, man, that used to listen to you. And you know what I mean? Like, and this tune right here, My Own, your album My Own, man, doesn't get enough shine. That album right there, Too Short on it. And what was that like working with Too Short, by the way?
Oh man, a dream come true. Short is one of my idols, man. And just to be, old school, you know what I mean? And still, I never heard a rap where Short changed his style, sped up, tongue twister, nothing. To remain himself and be successful at it is one of my greatest, right? Yeah, one of my greatest inspirations, Short, man.
What's my favorite word? Biatch.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And this time right here, man, better than the last time, man. My favorite tune is obviously an offer you can't refuse. Like you said, the greatest short song of all time. Better than the last time, man. Are you still in contact? I don't want to bring up nothing I don't know, but Max Minnelli, C-Look, and them, like, that's cool, man.
That's my favorite brother, man. You know the story. I mentioned it to you before, but I knew Max since he was 11 years old. So I really introduced Max to the camp. Him as well as Jay Vaughn and Happy Perez. So that's how we all evolved in that sense. And I, put that recipe on the table at C-Loc Records. So shout out to Max. We talked to him recently, man. We get together every now and again.
Yeah, my guy Max P, he'll be listening to this, and he's a Max Minnelli fan. He loves Max Minnelli, man.
Right on.
When you listen to that, My Balls, My Word, you can tell a lot of. This is just my guess. Most of those tunes, I think, weren't recorded. They were recorded outside in No Limit Studios and all that. Was there only maybe one or two that you actually recorded in, like, with the Beats by the Pound, like, in that situation?
To give you the inside scoop, only 3 songs for that album. Yeah, for that album, only 3 songs on Time So Hard, Bring the Noise, More Money. Everything else we did at camp headquarters, man.
What was that like working with Beats by the Pound, man? The legendary Beats by the Pound, mind you. What was it like working with them?
phenomenal, man. You know, there was a 5-man beat crew. You know, I have a personal
Yeah.
relationship with all those guys since then. And just you know, they whole texture of music, how they all got down individually and then they came together to really was a beat Voltron. You know what I'm saying? 5 lines. And when they came together to make that mass sound, that mass production, yeah, I was on those records and, you know, was off the top that I listened to. As a matter of fact, what you listening to right now, that's a me and Moby Dick song.
Well,
Moby
that's
Dick
why that's
produced
why I
that.
put it up, man. Yeah, I thought it's like the moment I saw that it was you and Moby Dick on a tune, I'm like, well, what? And I love the tune, man. You guys are
Right.
magic
Appreciate
together.
that. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Every
commerce
time
for
we
real,
did
man.
something recently. Yeah, we did something recently, man. Kind of Indian, you know, reservation and history song that we did that
Oh
called "Where the
yeah.
Party at." Indians Party. I'm gonna have to send that to your phone. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, man. I love that. I do love that new song you put out, "The Last of the Rap Mafia Dons." Man, this tune right here
Yes,
has that old feel. You like it
right.
has that vibe, man. It's
Yes,
beautiful.
sir.
Yeah.
Wait till you get this album. I'm doing. I'm going back to the old Pac days. Despite of the attention span, I'm doing 28 songs for that album. And I got a
Yes.
surprise for you. That got a lot of that Italian, you know, that sound. I finally found the sound. We was developing it then. Now I done met so many producers, and a few in particular, give me a few mafia-based records. So the whole texture, it's a beautiful love song I'm doing on that called My Senorita Consuela. I got shit called Bolivia that's gonna be on there. But I got a special one for you. I finally
Yeah.
redid an offer you can't refuse. That's
I
longer, so
saw
it's gonna
that on
be
your. I
yeah.
saw that on your IG, man. I'm like, come on, man, you redid it, huh?
Yeah, I'm
God
finna
damn,
bring
that's
it
a tune.
back. Yes, sir.
That's a tune, man. And then you worked with Daz, man. You worked with Daz
Yeah,
on I think it was My Own album, and you were on his. He had a compilation album, Who Ride With Us.
who
What was,
ride with us? Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. What was that like working with Daz, man?
Yeah.
That dude's a legend, man. What was it like working with Daz?
Daz is my guy. I had a chance to do a record with Snoop that's still unreleased. I might have mentioned in the previous interview, but Daz came down to Baton Rouge by himself, no bodyguards. Me and my manager at the time, Uncle Paulie, you know what I mean, out the neighborhood. We picked him up in a 63 blue Catalina. We was tripping out on the blue, the Crippin'. And he came and he worked with me for a couple of days. And over the
Oh
years,
yeah.
we done did a few because we working on something now. So Daz is my guy out of all of them. I know Corrupt. We done talked and met it once in the flesh, him and Superfly. But Daz was always my go-to guy. Daz give me the fastest rebuttal when it comes to doing a verse for me, man. You know, no money down, that
You
type
can
of
just
thing.
tell
So yeah,
Daz is a real dude. Yeah, you can just
yeah,
tell
he a
Daz is
real
a
dude,
real
man.
dude. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
we run. Yeah,
yeah. And you know what? You don't just want to go to old tunes. I remember I texted you right away when this song came out. The day it came out, my Spotify
yeah,
gave me a notification. Epic Proportions. This tune, man, I love this tune. And
yeah,
you talk about your mother almost dying in this tune, and just the
yeah.
way that you're saying it is just
Right. You know, that's my evolution. My mother almost died the day I was born. She gave up her life for me to be here, and God saw fit that she's still here with us to this day. But another one for you, man. That's I met a producer by the name of Mill Vibe just through the internet, and they asked, 'cause, you know, like the average producer, can I send some beats to you? I got something that'll fit you. And that's the first track he sent me. We got something else in the vault that we working on. But I never met this guy in the flesh. You know, he white as
and,
snow as you know what I'm saying? But the vibe, you know what I mean? It ain't where you from, it's
yeah,
how you come to people.
yeah,
So
man.
shouts out
That's
to
the
Mill
truth.
Vibe in Switzerland, man.
He's from Switzerland. Made this tune right here.
Yeah, from Switzerland.
Man,
Yeah.
okay, see?
Yeah, he nice,
See?
man. He real nice. Yeah.
There's no borders to this, man. There's no borders to this.
No, for the
All right.
universal hip hop culture, man.
That's it. So music, man. For those that don't know now, you know, Young Bleed. Look him up, man. It's from then till now. It hasn't stopped. And if you just want to, it's a very specific sound, man. It's that's why he keeps going and why he's still doing it because, it's just beautiful music. So check him out. Now, so that's the music. Now, documentary, man. I'm gonna have you throw a documentary at me, and I'm gonna have a documentary thrown at you. Now, I'll start this off, and this is also for the listeners, man. Since we're talking about New Orleans and everything, there was a documentary that I watched, man. It was by a guy from New Orleans called Edward Buckles Jr., and it was called Levy or no Katrina Babies. It's called Katrina Babies,
Wow.
and yeah,
Okay.
and it was about basically he goes and he talks to the children that lived
Yeah.
through that storm and where they're at
Right.
now, and like talking about the stress, how that affected them. And man, there are some points in that documentary where if you don't shed a tear, then you're just not
Yeah.
human. So
Right.
and I have no shame in my game to be able to admit that right here. And everyone go check out, I think it's on HBO, Katrina Babies by Edward Buckles Jr. Yeah,
Okay.
check that out, man. What
Okay.
about you? You got a documentary to throw out there?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw you one, but I'm gonna say this, man. Let me show you what's prophetic. I know you're a Led Zeppelin fan. You know what I mean? I will hope so. And
Oh,
I
of
listen to
course,
Led
man, of
Zeppelin.
course.
You know all forms of music. So you know
Oh
how
yeah.
prophetic is when the levees break, man. You hear
Oh,
me?
yeah,
How long ago
yeah.
that was made? You never thought of that? Yeah, when the levees.
Uh,
You see what I'm saying? So
Man, look at this.
that's you know, mentioning Led Zeppelin, but as far as a documentary, like I said, I go to sleep to stuff like the Legend of Loch Ness or the Loch Ness Monster. It's
Mm,
the music, it's the setting. What I found out, I'll give you this story right quick. I
mm-hmm.
remember living in Detroit at the time, and shouts out to my man Diamond Dog, which was one of the producers that I worked with up there. And he toured with me from the top of the country to the bottom. And
Man.
between Chicago and somewhere, we swapping trains or whatever we was doing. And I'm tired. It's one of those days. I'm telling you, I'm exhausted. I don't want to conversate with nobody. I want to get
Mm,
right on the train,
mm,
catch a car, and go to sleep till we get to our destination, or stop and take a cigarette break. But saying it to say this,
mm.
Diamond knew I was tired. You know, my ace boon coon. So he you know, is lively kind of cat. You know what I mean? He gonna mix and mingle and move around. So I went to my seat immediately, and he come back and say, "Bleed, I know you tired, but that's just a white man in the back of the train that you have to meet this white man." I say, "Man, Diamond, I'm tired, bro. I ain't got time right now, but I just want to rest. I'm really tired." He said, "Say, bro, he got your same last name." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
Mm.
That made me get up. Shouts out, rest in peace to Mr. Harold Henry Coward, um, which was the bass player for Andy Gibb. You know what I mean? And
Oh.
the Beat Gees. Yeah, so he's from Louisiana. So before he passed away, my birth of the Carleon family, the rest of my own, and my vintage record was recorded on his 40-acre studio. So it was half swampland with gators, deer, you know what I mean, at a pond at the top that had bass, fish, and everything. I started to call him. He kind of took the place of my granddad in a sense. If my granddaddy wanted me to inherit, if he'd have had it, he gave it to me. But this older white guy did. You see what I'm saying? He'd go
Mm,
to bed, leave me 12 shotguns with me and my guys in a long 44 and let me hold the fort down. I'll see y'all in
mm,
the morning. I could record and spend a night there. I live about
mm,
5 or 7 minutes from him in a little city called Galvez, you know, on the outskirts of Baton Rouge.
mm.
So I loved him and to his passing and continuously. He used to always say, if I go first, I'm gonna meet you at the big band up top. And he did. You know what I mean?
Rest
Used
in
to call
peace.
himself the blonde Don, and I was the young Don. His birthday is June 12th, mine is June 6th. So we
He
used to
called himself
celebrate our
the
birthday.
blonde Don.
The blonde Don. He was my emeritus. You see what I'm saying? I called him my emeritus. So, but sad to say this, so after his passing, you know, I'm on this train. I finally get up and go in the back. And I sit down at the table like how we sitting across from each other now. And it's a
Mm,
white guy, Mr. Halford. He left. He had all snow white beard, all snow
mm,
white hair, everything.
mm,
So this guy kind of looked like him, snow white at all.
mm,
Named is Joshua Clifton. I love to see Mr. Joshua. I done lost his number in one of my phones in time. Had a son or
mm,
something that was a drum. I didn't meet him. He was telling me about. So he started explaining to me that he was from Louisiana in the
mm.
Alexandria area. So he was about the same age as my daddy, my real father. And my daddy used to always tell me about this Indian reservation that's up in Alexandria
Oh boy.
that, you know,
Mm,
we kind of come from on my daddy's side of the family. So the more he was talking to me, he was explaining to me, he say, man, he was a war veteran. I forget what war he was in, but they
mm,
left him in malaria, Malaysia, some kind of way, you know, the port. When when they send a rescue unit for you, they had to meet at a certain river every day about 3 o'clock or so. And he said by the time he'll make it to that river, the helicopter will be taking off, and the soldiers wouldn't come back to get you. So he said they did him that for about 3 times. Said to see the last time, he said he shot down a chopper, his own American soldiers, because they was leaving him out there. But saying it was so bad out there that when he was thirsty, you couldn't drink the water because it was so contaminated or poisoned or what have we. So he say for water or any form of liquid, you have to kill a buffalo and drink the buffalo blood out of it. But he said he ended up with a whole chicken. And he seasoned this chicken and cooking this chicken, and the people took him into this particular village. And say when he went to sleep and woke up the next morning, the whole village was outside with 2 chickens under each arm. You know what I'm saying? He had to cook for that village. But as he was describing that Indian reservation and all that, I said, you telling me too much of what my daddy was telling me. So I called my daddy immediately and said, Daddy, got the white guy sitting in front of me. He knew Mr. Harold and all that. He had a chance to meet before. I put him on the phone, my pop. My pop talked to him for a few minutes. He handed the phone back. But before he did that, he pulled out a harmonica. I pulled out a harmonica. We played dominoes. I might have pulled out some dominoes. We was tripping out on each other. So when he handed that phone back, my daddy said, "Yeah, that's your cousin." You know what I mean? So when he explained to me, he said, "Man, y'all Clifton name come from the houses and castles off the cliffs of Scotland." So when Dre sang in the Players Anthem video with Pimp C, Rest in Peace, and Bun B and 3-6 Mafia, he was saying, I got Scottish in my family. You know what I mean? So he say we'd have had an African that married or did something with a Scottish princess or something like that. And that's where my name come from on my daddy's side. So it's ironic that I fall in love with the Loch Ness Monster growing up in life since a kid. So it's funny how things come around. But I wanted to share that with you, man. Absolutely.
Thank you for that, man. It's wild how life just happens like that, doesn't it? It's just things just like how you said, I pulled out a harmonica, he pulled out a harmonica. And I had this story that real quick before we get out of here, before we do the challenge, but like to say how right there, how things just happen. Like my family wouldn't have survived. I wouldn't be here right now. You're talking about war. My Dutch grandfather was a spy for the if you don't mind me sharing the story. My Dutch grandfather was a spy for the Dutch army in World War II. And he was over in Holland, and he was fighting in the war. He was a spy and fighting against the Nazis. And to the day he died, he couldn't stand Germans. He had a German neighbor, and he always used to look at me and he goes, "Don't trust him." He was big, tall. I would call him my Opa. His name was Marinus. It was such an old school name, Marinus Ten Hagen. And he always wore a 3-piece suit every single day, top hat like this, always looking good. If he was sick, he'd still put that suit on. He's always leave the house suited and booted. Anyways, so he got infiltrated by the Nazis. He got took into a camp, into one of those concentration camps. And you talk about not being able to drink the water. These guys weren't even drinking water. He was telling me this story right out of his mouth. He said there was guys next to him drinking their own piss in the line and dying around him in the concentration camp. And he said, I could feel myself. I was starting to disappear, like he was starting to die. He told me, Blee, one night he got shook. Somebody was shaking him. He looked up. He opened his eyes. It was a Nazi soldier looking down at him, handed him some papers, and said, "Run." And he just ran. He had papers. He ran. That's how my family survived. He ended up moving to Canada. He never found out who that Nazi soldier was, but that's how he got out of the concentration camp, man.
Wow.
Just wild, right?
Crazy. Hey, look, before we get to that challenge, let me take me a break right quick, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll pause that, man. We're back. All right, so we're gonna jump in, like you said, into a challenge before we get out of here. And my challenge last week, my challenge to people was to call a friend that you haven't spoke to in a long time. And I did that. I called a friend, and it felt good, man. And now I'm gonna go for coffee with this dude on Friday, so which is cool. I hadn't talked to him in years. And the challenge before that was to get off social media for a weekend, just to get yourself out of that world for a little bit, and challenge people to see if they could do that for a weekend. So this episode 3, my challenge to people is this. I find that laughing, and just laughing in general, is such a cure. You got music and then you have laughing. And what I want people to do is put yourself in a situation to laugh this weekend. This episode comes out on Friday. So this weekend, whether you're going to go to a comedy show, whether you're going to throw on Mike Epps, maybe some old school Eddie Murphy raw, he's talking about Italians. Was that Delirious or raw? Where he's talking about the Italian. Give me some jujubes. This one, I can't remember if it's raw or Delirious. He's like, when the Italians come out of Rocky and they're feeling all amped up, and he's like, incredible. That shit will get me every time. But what I challenge everybody to do is to do that this weekend and count, like people check their timelines. Check your timeline of laughing this weekend. So put yourself in a situation to laugh this weekend. It'll feel good. So that's my challenge to you. What about you, Blee? You got a challenge for these listeners?
Short and simple for the people that's not already doing it. Pray and meditate, man. Give yourself, if not 30 minutes, an hour with God if you don't do that all the time. You know what I mean? And pray for peace. And just, allow him to work his spirit throughout you. So, when I lay down at night and pray to God, and sometimes I catch my knees, but sometimes, he come at me and I'm so exhausted. Just lay down and let go. And I can hear all your problems and lay it all on the Lord and see what that do for you. What I recommend to everybody.
And we're going to end it on that, man. I love that. That's beautiful. Listen to that. Young Blee, tell them where they can find you. Tell them what your tell them where they can find you so these listeners can go and get some more of that. Get some more Young Blee, man.
Okay, of course, Spotify, all our platforms, man. You can't miss me. Facebook, I have a Young Blee fan page, my government, Glenn Clifton. You can tap in with me. What it is? Twitter is at Real Young Blee. Instagram is The Real Young Blee. And in a city near you, man, I'm doing a 100-city tour right now. 100 in Louisiana as a whole. Yes, sir, and 100 around the country, man. So hopefully in the city near you for this weekend for the people in the Kansas City, Missouri area and Topeka, Kansas. I'll be in Topeka Friday and maybe even Saturday night. Sunday night, I'll be back in Kansas City doing the show with Finesse 2 times. Shouts out to my man Chauncey Clyde, and all the people of Missouri. So that's this weekend. Next weekend, I'll be in Dallas, Texas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City. So, this tour continuing. It's not 30 days at a time, but every weekend, man, I'm gonna pop up in a city, state near you. So y'all stay focused and stay in tune to what's going on, and I'm gonna put up the briefing. So it'll be continuing.
Get that passport and come to Toronto, man. I will work with some people here, and we would. I swear, Toronto wouldn't be ready for it, man. You bring Young Blee to Toronto, I'm telling you, man.
I'm ready for that, man. So that's my mission. I'm doing that as we speak, and I'll let you know for sure. And I'd like to come over there and take a look around, my brother. I appreciate that.
All right. And one last thing, you talk about you're on your IG, man. People, go check his IG out, man. Because I was going through your story this one time, and you had this one quote, man. I don't read those the quotes I read are on yours, man, because they mean something. And you had this one quote that hit me, man. Before we get out of here, and you said, parents gotta quit trying to be friends with their kids and go back to being parents, man. And
right. Hey, man. We got to continue to teach the class. The kids can't run the class. I give you this one since we brought that up. And it all start with leaders and followers. Who put in a leader position, right? That's in the home, the work area, at the school, the playground. I remember being a 5-year-old kid, and we had a little white lady by the name of Miss Little was her name. She had to be a 5'2", 5'3" or something.
And her name was Miss Little?
Miss Little was her name.
Brilliant.
True life. But now that I look back at this, I didn't think nothing of it as a kid. But when I tell you, we ran the classroom, I stayed kind of humble and kind of out the way. But my cousins and all that, if I tell you the things that was going on in the classroom, she'll have to go get the principal. And when I look back and say, for a bunch of 5-year-olds, man, so that part of the parents being scared of their kids, the teachers being scared is what's wrong with society. And if a lion cub don't have leadership, he gonna start to take his own leadership. You see what I'm saying? In that sense of the word, Parents,
every
it's cool
night.
To be,
Keep going, sorry.
friends with your kids. No problem. but best friends with your kids. But
Mm.
you know, express your authority. And what it's saying, the good word is spare the rod, spoil the child. And that's what's wrong with the world. You know what I mean? It's ass
Man,
back. Yeah,
it
it's
is.
ass back, man. Yes,
I
sir.
tell my son every night before we go to sleep, to add to your point there, and I actually say this. You just said it, and it's just trippy. I say the first thing I tell him as I'm rocking him to sleep and putting him to sleep, I say, be a leader, not a follower. I say, be a
Right,
leader, not a
right.
follower. I say, always stand tall and always look people in the eyes. I say, you can always
Yes, sir.
find out a lot about someone by their eyes. I said, the eyes don't lie, Chico. I tell him this every night. This is my 2.5-year-old, right? And their eyes don't
Right.
lie, Chico. And I say, listen, always be confident and don't copy
Yeah.
what everybody else is doing just because everybody else is doing it. Do your own thing unless you want to do it.
Yeah.
I said, always
Right.
be aware of your surroundings on the streets or inside so you can react quickly. And I always tell them, I always end it with this. I say, you and your sister, Luna, are blessed. You've been given a gift that whatever you choose to do in life, you're going to be the best at it. And I tell him that every single night because he's going to believe that by the time he gets a little
Yeah.
older, and then it's just going to manifest. And I truly believe in
Right.
that, man. Yeah.
My pop was the same way, and to go back to the Karate Kid too. I always look eye, you know, for the eyes are the windows to your soul, man. You can
Man.
see just as lies in the heart if you're able to, if you look a person in the eyes. You know what I mean?
It's the
Body
truth.
language, you know what I mean? Mind language. You know, I always say when people look to the left when they talking to you, they lying. You know what I mean? But straight ahead, yeah, I had a pop that'll get on your head. If you looked off, that means you was hiding from what you know what you did. You can't face me. When you ducking me out, then there's something that's on the
Something not
underlands.
right.
You know what I mean? That you're trying to keep, yeah, that you're trying to keep from it. So be straight up with people, and like you say, always look high, my brother. Absolutely.
Well, let's end it on that. Thank you so much for coming on here again, Bleed, and we will be in touch. And when you're coming to Toronto, let me know because we'll watch the city explode. All right.
Absolutely. You're gonna be my personal tour guide, my brother. My
Oh
casa
man.
super.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
man. All right. Keep doing what you're doing, and thanks, man. We love you. And that was the El Hoopo Show. I want to thank everybody for listening or watching this episode. It does mean a lot, genuinely. And remember, wherever you're catching this pod, please hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And hit that 5-star review. The reason I'm asking you to do that is because that nudges that silly little algorithm that'll reach a little bit more ears and a little bit more eyes. So have a great weekend, and we love you. And can you let us have one how you do that there?
I can do that there.